ביאור משנה ט' לא יעמוד אדם ברשות היחיד. A person is not allowed to stand in the private domain ויטול מפתח המונח ברשות הרבים and take a key that is in the public domain ויפתח ברשות הרבים and open through the public domain. Let me explain what's going on over here. You've got the door right over here and the window right next to it. And the key is right under the door. Sorry, right under the window. On the outside, on the public domain, the key is. So it says, I'm allowed, I remember the rules, I'm allowed to move objects in the public domain. Right? Less than 4 tfachim. And it happens to be, my door is less than 4 tfachim away from the key. So I'm going to hang out from the window, pick up the key, and open the door. So you're not allowed to do that. He says, why? All the rules are fine? What's the problem? Let's see. So he says, you shouldn't do that. And open in the public domain. Beshabbat. Kegon. Or he gives the example. שיושיט ידו דרך חלון ביתו, is going to extend his hand through the window, ויפתול מפתח המונח בחור שברשות הרבים. He's going to take the key that is placed in a hole that is in the public domain, ויפתח מבחוץ מנעול שברשות הרבים. And you're going to open the door from the outside. ואף על פי שאין ממקומו של המפתח עד המנעול 400, and even though it has less than 400, you're not allowed to do it. מכל מקום אסור? Nevertheless, you're not allowed to. Why? גזירה שמה ישכח ויכניס את המפתח אליו לרשות היחיד. Because we're afraid you might come and take this key into the private domain. Because you need it. You remember the rules, things that you need, we're afraid you're going to come and pick it up. If you don't need it, yeah, it's automatically. וכן לא יעמוד אדם ברשות הרבים, and also a person is not allowed to stand in the public domain, ויטול מפתח המונח ברשות היחיד, and the opposite, he's going to take the key that's inside the house, and open the house from the inside. ויפתח ברשות היחיד. כגון שהמנעול הוא במקום שהוא גבוה 10 טפחים, ורחב על 4 על 4. That the lock is in a place that is 10 טפחים tall, and high, because otherwise it will be in זהו. ואף המפתח מונח סמוך למנעול במקום שדינו כשרות יחיד. And the key is right next to it. או שהוא מונח למעלה מ10, or the key is above 10 טפחים, and then you don't have the problem, it's, you're going over public domain. אסור לעומד ברשות הרבים ליטול שם בשבת המפתח. The person is not allowed to take the key over there on Shabbat, ולפתוח בו את המנעול, and to open the key. גזירה שמה יביא את המפתח אליו. It's a decree, maybe he's going to bring the key to him, ונמצא מוציא מרשות היחיד לרשות הרבים. And we found that he's taking out from public domain to the, from private domain to the public domain. אלא, so how do you open your house in such a case? אלא אם כן עשה מחיצה גבוהה 10 טפחים. It says, make a small balcony around. You know, and then you can go into the balcony and then open the door. ברשות הרבים, והוא עומד בתוכה, and he stands inside of it. שנמצא עומד ברשות היחיד, הוא פותח ברשות היחיד. So then you're standing in a private domain, and opens in a private domain. כך מפרש רש"י. This is what Rashi explains. היינו, שפסקה זו מוסבה על הספר בלבד. That we're talking about only the end of the Mishnah. ויש מפרשים שמוסבה גם על הרישא. Some say we are also discussing the beginning of the Mishnah. כלומר, שאם הוא עומד ברשות היחיד, that if he stands in a private domain, והמנעול והמפתח ברשות הרבים, and the key and the lock is in a public domain, יעשה מחיצה ברשות הרבים סמוך למקום המפתח. He needs to make a מחיצה outside so he can unlock the door. ונמצא עומד ברשות היחיד, הוא פותח ברשות היחיד. Then he's standing in a private domain and opening in a private domain, and even if he takes the key, it's above 10. Oh, it's not a problem because everything is a private domain. It's from private domain to private domain and you're fine. This is Divrei Rabbi Meir, the words of Rabbi Meir. Divrei Rabbi Meir, שחולק הוא על מה ששנוי לעיל משנה ד', that he goes against what we learned before in Mishnah ד'. And Mishnah ד' would say, עומד אדם ברשות היחיד ומטלטל ברשות הרבים, that the person is allowed to stand in a private domain and is allowed to move objects in the public domain. ברשות הרבים ומטלטל ברשות היחיד. And public domain and move object in the private domain. Amru lo, they say to him, Chachamim le Rabbi Meir. So the sages come to Rabbi Meir and they say to him, we have a case like us. What's the case? Maaseh beshuk shel ptamim. We know of a case of the market of ptamim. There was a market of butchers. Yeah, mefatmei behemot ve'ofot. It was a place where you feed the animals to make them, before you sell them, you need to make them nice and fat. Lemichira. Shehaya b'Yerushalayim. We know this marketplace was inside Yerushalayim. Shehayu no'alim et chanutehem b'Shabbat. They used to lock their stores on Shabbat. Umanichim et hamafteach b'chalon she'al gabei hapetach. And then they would put the key right on the window that's on top of the opening. Shehu reshut hayachid. The window is the private domain. And they're standing now in the public domain. And they're going to take the key now and they're going to open the door. And we said, and we saw that this is happening in Yerushalayim. Afal pi shayu omdim bashuk. Even though they used to stand in the private domain. So Rabbi Yossi told them back, no. The story you told me is the wrong story. Shuk shel tzamarim haya. I agree with you that he used to do something like this, but it wasn't a butcher's. It was things for the wool. Yeah, it probably they're discussing. We're going to see soon that it was in different areas, and it matters in which area it was. של מוכרי צמר, or sellers of wool. ולא בא רבי יוסי לחלוק בהלכה. And Rabbi Yossi didn't come to tell you that the halacha is different. That the law, אלא בעובדה. He comes to tell you that the case was different. בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it says, שאומנם השוק בירושלים אינו רשות הרבית, אלא כרמלית. The reason why it was actually be able to do it, because the market in Yerushalayim is not public domain. It is Carmelit. Why? Because you're talking about the old city of Yerushalayim. And the old city has a wall around it. Yeah? And even though many people live it, they have 600,000 people who pass through it every day. Yeah? So therefore it's considered to be a Carmelit and not public domain. הואיל וירושלים מוקיפה מחיצות, since there's a wall around ירושלים, ודלתותיה נעולות בלילה, and you lock the doors at night. אלא, so therefore, from a Carmelit, you're allowed to do it. But if it was a public domain, you will not be allowed to do it. אלא שמשנתנו חסרה היא, ויש להוסיף בה כדברי רבי מאיר. So this is what Rabbi Meir wanted to say. וכן לא יעמוד אדם ברשות היחיד. It says a person is not allowed to stand in the private domain, ויפתח בכרמלית. And he's even going to open in the Carmelit. Or בכרמלית, ויפתח ברשות היחיד. Or in Carmelit, and he opens in the private domain. אלא אם כן עשה מחיצה גבוהה 10 טפחים. Only if he did a big boundary 10 טפחים. So it looks like they're arguing if Carmelit also is within this rule, or only רשות הרבים is within the rules. ועל כך אמרו לו חכמים, and when Rabbi Yossi was saying it also in a Carmelit, the Chachamim is bringing a proof from a Carmelit that is wrong. Says, look what they used to do in Yerushalayim. ועל כך אמרו לו חכמים, and on this the sages told him, הרי עובדה היא שבירושלים שדינם ככרמלית. Look at the butchers, look what they do. They're taking it from a private domain, the key, they're standing in a Carmelit, and they're opening it. So why are you saying it? היו נוהגים הפתמים או הצמרים, either it was the butchers or the wool guys, לעמוד בשוק ולנעול חנותיהם בשבת. They used to stand in the marketplace and to lock their doors on Shabbat, ולהניח את המפתח בחלון שעל גבי המפתח. And even then they used to put it in a private domain, back into the house. Like, they're standing in the public, or the Carmelit, and putting it in the house. ונמצא מעשה זה סותר את דבריך. And now this goes according to what you're saying, Rabbi Yossi. לעניין כרמלית, to the matter of Carmelit. ואומנם לגבי כרמלית, so the truth is, when it comes to a Carmelit, כפי שמבואר בגמרא, like it explains in the Gemara, חוזר בו רבי מאיר מדבריו. רבי מאיר admits to the חכמים, to the sages, you know what? In Carmelit, I agree that you're allowed to do it. In other words, you don't have to make a small mechitzah in the Carmelit. Only in Reshut HaRabim you have to do it. I agree with you. אבל חכמים חולקים עליו אף לגבי רשות הרבים. The sages even disagree with him when it comes to the public domain. וסוברים הם, and the sages thinks שמותר לעמוד ברשות היחיד ולפתוח ברשות הרבים, או לעמוד ברשות הרבים ולפתוח ברשות היחיד. The sages go against Rabbi Meir in all cases, also in the public domain, they go against him. שהואיל ואינו צריך למפתח, אלא לפתוח ולנעול בו, because he says, you actually don't need the key. He says, you need the key. He says, I don't need the key. I just need to open the door. I have no need for the key to be inside. If I had a key, a need for the key to be inside, maybe you guys will be right. Maybe Rabbi Meir will be right, but we don't need the key. All we need is the lock. ולהניחו במקומו, and then we're going to put it back in its place. אין חוששים שמא יביאנו אליו לרשות שהוא עומד בה. We're not worried that you're going to take the key inside. Therefore, Rabbi Meir, we disagree with you even in the public domain, because we're not moving the key into the house.
I always leave it outside.
Yeah, exactly.
So by that you can put your key under your mat and go to shul and come back from shul, open the door.
Yeah, in our houses it's very easy. Usually in our houses has it's private domain completely. Yeah, it's completely private domain. But even in a house which is not a private domain, you're allowed to open the door, put it back inside, and
Under the mat.
yeah, I don't know if that's the halacha. Yeah, but according to Chachamim,
According to this
according to the Mishnah.